Okay, we should be live now.
Amazing.
So, welcome people. Welcome everybody. This is our final webinar for the season. And we're very happy to have Krista with us, but I'll start with the introductions. My name is Viviana, I'm from applitracker. Here in applitracker, we're building a digital tool to help the job seekers manage smartly all the job applications. And we know that when we say right now all the job applications, we're talking about hundreds of applications, unfortunately. So, and this causes a lot of stress. And this is why today we have here career coach Krista Casey. Please, Krista, introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Krista Casey. I'm really excited to be here. I'm originally from New York City. I've been in Berlin 7 years now, and my background is actually in creative. So I studied graphic design, photography. I worked for a long time as a creative director, but I've had a career transition into coaching, and my coaching certification comes from the Designing Your Life Institute, which I think takes a really interesting approach. They take a design thinking approach to what they call life design. So it's really about problem solving, understanding the needs of the consumer, us, the individual, and building strategies to help each of us. So I work with a lot of clients really all across Europe, a lot of clients who are job seekers, maybe like some of you, or people who want to reorient their career or just work on some, life topics.
Yeah, definitely. And so before we start, I just want to let everyone know, please leave your questions in the comment section. We will go over, hopefully all of them by the end of the session. And right now, I just want to jump right in. And I think I'm going to go just about the emotional part. Just how do you really think job seekers, Krista, could normalize this emotional toll the job search can cause?
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about. I think being a job seeker, being unemployed is very stressful. It comes with uncertainty, stress, rejection, and maybe depending on your specific circumstance, if there's a financial strain, that really amplifies these things. I think one thing that I've really observed with a lot of clients lately and that I like to talk about is I observe that people really wear the label of unemployed as almost like the biggest thing about them, because I think it can feel so all-consuming when we're unemployed. It's almost like the first thought we have about ourselves. It's our focus when we wake up in the morning, when we go to bed. And I like to work with clients to remember all the other things about them, all of their skills and interests and values, because when I work with them on how to network, which I know we're going to talk about, how to build connections, I sense a lot of uncertainty because I think they're worried that they don't have something to bring to the table, but we're all such interesting, unique individuals. And I think remembering all of the different parts of ourselves, and that even if we are currently unemployed or currently looking for a job, we're so much more than that. And that can be such a big part of the conversation.
I really love this just comment that you just made, because when I was unemployed, often it was like, hi, I'm Viviana, I'm unemployed.
Right.
It was just like, I don't have a last name, I don't have anything else that's going on in my life, I'm just unemployed. Yeah. So what would you, to this Viviana of the past, advise us, give us like practical tools to maybe manage this stress and manage this whole self-doubt?
Yeah, I think it's really important to build some of these foundational tools. So like the first thing I like to understand is helping people know themselves better. If you hadn't defined your values, that would be something that I think can be really valuable. Whether or not we're a job seeker, understanding our values really works as a compass and helps us understand what's aligned with us, what's misaligned with us, but also understanding, why do you work? What do you want from your life? I think sometimes, particularly in this current job market where it feels very scarce, I think there's a big scarcity mindset, completely understandably. I see a lot of clients, wanting to rush into the job market and thinking I could be anything for anyone, just kind of tell me who I need to be to fit this role. And I think that also takes a strain on our mental health. It's important to come back to ourselves, understand who we are, understand who we want, and then come to the job market with that, really cohesive understanding of ourselves and also how we talk about ourselves.
But so this might be a question. So all of this, would you say, sure, sometimes the point of getting a job is to make money most of the time. And I think there is a division that I have seen recently where people make the distinction of you don't necessarily have to build a career. You can just have a job because you want to earn money. And I think this is also a distinction that people have to understand about themselves. If you actually want to have a career, then it means that you can't be everything for anyone. And then I think it's also important, and in this analogy will be just the grounds for you to understand yourself even better. So how can you work like actively to look for a job but stay grounded? Just after I identify myself of what I want. So what is the next step?
Yeah, so two things come to mind with this idea of staying grounded. The first one is around building your toolbox, and the second one is around negative self-talk. So maybe I take them one at a time. So the first one, building your toolbox, and I think it's so unique to each individual. I've seen the toolbox need to be quite customized, but let me suggest what I would see as the first step. So like a piece of paper with two columns, and the first column, to write down the things that you reach for when you want to numb yourself, meaning like you don't want to think about what's happening, you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious. Some things that you might reach for: social media scrolling, online shopping. I'm someone who puts on Friends for the 87th time just because you want to like shut off a part of your brain. It's totally natural. There's like no judgment there. But the thing about those numbing behaviors is they don't help us move through the stress and the anxiety. They just kind of park it while we shut off that part of our brain, and it's still there. So if we want to think about being grounded, feeling grounded, we need to reach for tools that help us move through stress and anxiety. And something in that column, so in the second column, could be going for a walk outside, meeting a friend for exercise, going to spin class. It should be things that are very reachable, very, within grasp, but that you can replace some of those numbing behaviors with so that you can move through the stress a bit more actively. And yeah, the second bucket around negative self-talk, this is a huge topic with clients, for everyone, whether or not you're a job seeker. But I think particularly when we're unemployed, our self-critic can be very, very strong. And that does really take a toll on our energy, on our mental health. And, if you think about this idea, like being stuck in a room with someone who's telling you you're not good enough, who's, saying they're not surprised you didn't make it through the interview phase, whatever this is. But then imagine if that person's like in your own head, and we have to really like observe that. That's kind of the first step, just observing what is the tone when I talk to myself. Is it quite negative? Is it really critical? And that's, don't judge it, just kind of see if that's what's happening. If that is what's happening, there are some tools that we can use. The first one is called distanced self-talk, because it's very rare that we would ever talk to a friend or another person as critically as we speak to ourselves. So if we can start to insert some distance, even if I just use my own name when I talk to myself, we start to separate how the tone might show up. And that can be really effective. And there's another tool called time travel, because sometimes when we're being very critical with ourselves, we're all consumed with the moment, with what's happening. And if we can zoom up and move ourselves into the future 1-2 weeks and ask, am I still going to be upset about this? Is this still going to be such a big deal? And if the answer is yes, that's okay. But if the answer is like, actually, I probably won't even remember this in 2 weeks, then we can try to kind of step back a little bit and realize that we're being critical on ourselves for something that does not hold so much power in our life.
I love this. I really love how to, because everything that you're saying is to create some positive aspect into this job search, which is, we mentioned it before, sure, it's not in every industry, but for the majority, there is a lot of turmoil and going up and down. And so if you're faced with a lot of rejection, maybe you don't reject yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I wanted to say that, like, some of the topic I'm almost working the most with on clients is this navigating the moments of silence. There's like so much silence in the job search where you're like waiting to hear, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And this uncertainty can be so powerful. And I think another tool that we use in those moments is building structure around our effort, not our outcome, because if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of pieces of the outcome we can't control. We don't know the other applicants. We don't know exactly what this hiring manager is looking for. There's a lot of variables beyond our control if we're only anchored on the outcome. But if we're anchored on our effort, our mental health, our energy, how we're showing up, then we are much more in the driver's seat, much more in control of how this is looking. Mm-hmm. And it's a hard exercise, but trying to let go of some of those pieces that we actually don't have control over.
Okay, I like this. But then now one of the tools that we have said it many times here in AppleTracker, which is networking. Yeah. But what would be the one thing that comes to your mind that people are doing wrong when they're trying to network? Because we never discuss this, and I think it's also, there's an art into it.
Yeah. And I'm like truly an introvert at heart. Now I also hear networking and I like cringe a little bit because these big networking events, it's not where I shine. It's not my best moment. I know that about myself. So I think the first thing is maybe knowing the networking opportunities that are where you're going to show up as your best. And we could talk about what some of those look like. But yeah, what are people maybe getting wrong about networking? I heard this nice comparison the other day that networking isn't like fishing, it's like farming. So meaning like if you think you're going to go out today and catch a fish, that's not how it's going to go. It's more like farming, meaning like you're always kind of planting seeds and you're not sure exactly like what will grow into a path, but some will for sure. We know some will. So I think the uncertainty can come, and I see it with clients when we start to try to build the strategy. It's not a straight line. It's not a blueprint because we're not sure what's going to click, what's going to unlock something, but it's more of a path towards connection. That's more how I talk about it, because I also like to remind people when we're job seeking, when we're feeling low or uncertain about ourselves, connection with other people is actually one of the best tools. And so if we can find ways to connect with others for our mental health and also have it be a networking opportunity, that can be a nice combination.
So I'm curious to know your opinion about, so I have heard this many times, when you have this specific networking events that is for unemployed people, I often hear people say, this is just a waste of time because we are all looking for jobs, so it means that we are competition. And it just felt very awkward.
Sure.
Because I hear this and it's like, we go back to the same analogy. Hi, I'm Viviana, I'm unemployed. It's not, I'm also a human. I'm also many other things. So would you support this type of events?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think there's a misconception with networking that it's like we need to run out and find people who are like much more senior than us and then try to ask them if they can open a door. And I actually, I'm sure it works sometimes, but I think that that's not the most effective way. I think building these authentic connections out of curiosity, out of interest. You never know when someone at this event is going to land their next job. It could be next week and you've had an amazing connection with them. And now that company needs something that you do. And so this has like opened the door. Yeah, I think that's where networking is very like ambiguous and can be hard to grasp because, and again, in this job market, people are looking for certainty and they're looking for answers. And so I see that this doesn't feel so concrete, but I've just seen it work with so many clients that when they follow their curiosity and their interest and meet other people, it unlocks things in an unexpected way. You won't see the path, but you're going down it. You kind of have to have this trust. Yeah.
Okay. And so what would you say what effective strategies we can apply to our networking sessions?
Yeah, I think, well, maybe to go back to what I started saying, this idea of, if you are also someone who knows that these networking events are not where you shine and you're looking for like other places to network, knowing, if one-on-one coffees are really good for you, who do you want to talk to? Who are you curious about? Who is maybe doing the thing that you want to be doing? And how can you not reach out and ask them for a job, but reach out and ask them for their story, for their experience, for their insights. I see that open doors way faster than when people reach out and say, they're looking for a job. I think people retreat a little bit when they're worried someone has the end goal of a job. But also, like, I work with a lot of creative clients and I see them do collaborative, photo shoots or video shoots. Like working on a project together can also be a form of networking. You're meeting people in the industry. It's really about who they know and who they might introduce you to. I've also had clients do volunteer work that has unlocked interesting opportunities. Or I've had some people, like, almost to what you just described, start like a small little lunch group for 5 or 6 people who are also looking for a job. So yeah, I think it can look a lot of different ways. I think the goal is really connecting with other people. And by the time you're connecting with other people, understanding how to talk about yourself and how to tell your story, not in a way where you're pitching yourself, because I think then we get back into this like networking event territory, but just like talking about yourself in a way that you're comfortable, you have the right language to explain who you are and what you're doing and what you're looking for. And that's something I work with a lot of clients on as well, this idea of, if we think of ourselves as a brand, what is our own brand positioning? What is our own unique selling point? How do we talk about ourselves across our CV, our LinkedIn, in person? Because that really needs to be quite cohesive in order to build this brand equity in ourselves.
Yeah. So before we continue with the networking, I just want to point out, before we had the QR code, so Krista's actually gave us 5 free sessions for the people. So there is no longer 5, there are only 4 now. So please, people, because it's going fast, so check it out. So to have a personalized and a one-on-one session with Krista, I don't have to sell it. You guys you see what is happening. You see what you can expect. So jumping back in about networking. So to manage your network, because now I went to an event, I met 10 people, and I'm just using the same example as you used before. I'm a farmer. I put a little bit of seeds someplace. Now what do I do? Now how do I remember where I have them?
Yeah. So I do, because I think it sounds so simple, but we can gain so much from just writing things down. And I work with clients in Miro. So, we're writing everything down in Miro, but I work with them to make, I call it a connection map. So I see it as 3 circles. The people I know, this is low effort, you know them, but it's still actually helpful to write it down. Like, I have some people start writing it down and I'm shocked by how many people they know and how well connected they are. And I think it also reminds them. The second circle is people I want to know. So probably like your second or third tier network. And then the third circle is people I admire. So this is kind of like higher effort, maybe people that would take a little bit more for you to get an introduction. But just building this map, I think, reminds us of how connected we are, which is comforting in itself. But then I think it's interesting to start with this middle circle, this people I want to know. And depending on what industry you're in or what you're looking to achieve, maybe this is, again, I work with a lot of creatives, but maybe this is like a creative director at a company that you really admire. And this would be like a really interesting way for you to learn about the industry, about how they set up the team. Then we start working together to figure out how would you reach out to them. Are they already going to an event? And you can write to them and say I would love to introduce myself when you're already there. Some of these things are like low effort for them if you can kind of meet them where they are. So that's one way to approach it. But I also have a lot of success just doing cold outreach. It has to be genuine. The client has to actually care about the company and what they're doing, because I do think the forced comes across really fast if you're trying to pretend. But yes, if it's genuine, if it's coming from a place where they're actually interested, I see a lot of positive reaction and a lot of people very happy to meet.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when it's when you're just contacting people so that means to an end, it feels, it reflects. And so it's like, oh, you don't care who I am, you just care what I'm doing and where I'm doing it.
Right.
So with all of this, we are talking, so just mapping out your connections and how you know them. And then we spoke also about managing your stress. But all of this requires a lot of energy, including just actually looking for a job. So aside from the two things that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
So when it comes to managing your own energy, is setting like a monthly intention just how can we manage it? How can we shape it?
Yes, I think intention setting is really important. And I think whether it's monthly or weekly, people have, I think, different approaches there. But I always like to tell people set an intention for your job search, but also set a personal intention. Because again, going back to this idea that we're more than a job seeker when we're job seeking, what do you want to see happen over the course of this week for you as a person, and also within your job search. I do have a lot of clients that are very interested in this habit tracking. It's very simple, but it kind of goes back to this idea of focusing on effort over outcome. So let's say you set 2 intentions for this week, one for your job search, one for your personal life, and then every day, you make small notes about, what time you woke up, what you did that day, how your energy is, how your mood is. Then we kind of can start to see how is your energy over the course of the week. If you had bad sleep or poor nutrition, or maybe didn't talk to someone that day, did that really affect your mood? And we can start to kind of paint a picture of how this is looking, and maybe where we need to spend some more attention on your energy.
Okay, it makes sense. But when it comes to the intention, you would say it also for limiting the amount of people I want to contact on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, so also about connections, you would say?
To set the intention, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've already said this, but I think connecting with others I see as this wonderful solution for so many things when we're job seeking, because if we think of just human beings wired for connection, we do have this very positive response when we meet with other people. So for me, it would be a very reasonable intention for the week that you meet 2 new people, and that's your job seeking intention. Maybe of course you're also applying on the side of that. Yeah. But yeah, I think, and it's also it's good for things to be bite-sized. I was working with someone the other day, and of course their intention was to get a job, and then every day in the tracker they said not achieved, not achieved, not achieved. And I was like, no, we have to go more bite-sized, because of course from one day to the other that big goal is not going to shift, but we're going to shift so many goals underneath that, and then you're going to feel the progress.
Okay, so with this, so we just created this contact list. So how can we nurture these relationships? Because at the end, we just had this amount of people, we had the intention, now we meet them. Now, let's. How
Yeah.
can we do this without feeling like another job or overwhelming?
Yeah. I think this orienting on authenticity, as we were saying, like feeling like a genuine curiosity and like intrigue for what the people are doing. And I tell clients like reach out to maybe 6 or 7 people a week if there's enough there, meaning like cold outreach, over LinkedIn or over email. And if people are receptive, this can also go into your connection map, and you can kind of track, like this person responded positively, this person would be happy to meet for a coffee, because you also want to, you don't want to drain yourself. I'm not suggesting meeting 6 to 7 people a week. I think that's too much. But kind of like continuing to build the connections, and also understanding what your own social battery is. I think it's so different. I work with a lot of highly sensitive clients, and I'm also highly sensitive myself. So my social battery goes fast, and it's better one-on-one, but I also have to be reasonable, like what works for me within a week. So yeah, being honest with yourself about what is reasonable.
Okay, makes sense. But then we're we're juggling, or we are forced to juggle many things while we are searching for a job.
Right.
And I think often there is a perception that when I'm not productive, I'm slacking off. I'm missing opportunities.
Yeah.
So within this intention and this productivity and this final goal that you want to have, this ultimate goal that you want to have, which is finding the job, how can I actually schedule recovery time,
Yeah.
just resting time from all of it? Because it's a lot of things that you
Yeah.
have to juggle.
Yeah, and for people who are job seeking for a prolonged time, for many months, the symptoms can look similar to burnout that you would get from a job. So this does need to be taken seriously, and the rest piece needs to be considered. I always try to build rest in as a foundation with clients, but I'm also have a strong understanding that a lot of us were conditioned for productivity, meaning we were raised that like productivity meant somehow equaled your value, and by being productive you were a better contributor and like a more productive person in society. So rest can feel uncomfortable, and I see that in myself and also with my clients. So I actually do work with clients to define what play looks like for them, which I think is an interesting topic, and a lot of us think that maybe that sounds childlike or juvenile, or we don't see how that fits into our adult life. But if we can each define what play is for us, and it could be reading, it could be going to a bookstore, it could be some type of sport, but we first have to know what it is. We have to know what it looks like, and then once we have that, I think that's important, like at least 3 times a week to be investing in this play for yourself, so that you can rest, so that you can show up as the best version of yourself. Because when we're experiencing these burnout symptoms and we're not taking care of ourselves, I hear clients say, like, I just was not there in that interview. Like, I wasn't present, I wasn't focused. And there are real repercussions for not like allowing ourselves to have that rest.
Okay. So I think one of the repercussions to not actually giving yourself this space is that you are constantly this negative voice that we were speaking
Yeah.
before early. I think it also can make you feel isolated. So how
Yeah.
can we avoid feeling this, I don't know, feeling constant feeling of negative? How can we maybe structure our day to maybe just not avoid the situations that just they put yourself in a negative environment mentally?
Right. Yeah, the isolation topic is important. And I think I know we're both expats living in Berlin. And I think with expats as well, it can be, the isolation can sometimes be more intense, and maybe the stress is more intense. If your job is linked to your visa status and there are all these other complications, it can feel very heavy to carry by yourself. So yeah, of course, always the first thing that comes to mind for isolation is community. Like, what does your community look like? And it's also okay if the answer to that is like, I don't know, or I don't think I have one. That's fine. We just kind of need to check in with ourselves, understand where we are. And community doesn't have to be, we're getting together with 10, 20 people at a time. That would not work for me. We all have our own definition of community, but it really does mean connection. Like, how do we find connection with other people that we trust, where we can show up authentically? And in terms of, you asked about structure. So a lot of clients, I think, because the job search is radically unstructured, like our time is just wide open. I have so many clients who really crave structure, and that the beautiful thing about that is something we're in control of. That's one of the things in the control column. So I think there's all kinds of ways to go about it. I see a lot of my clients love this idea that either Sunday night or Monday morning, they write out a small schedule for themselves for the week with what they're going to focus on. They put the coaching in there, maybe some other moments of connection, and then they set aside time for whether it's applying or networking. And then when it's not the times that they put in the schedule, they do let themselves take a break, because they, you kind of make this like mini contract with yourself. This is how my week is going to look. I am going to do my best to follow this plan. And in the moments where I don't have something booked in, I'm going to lean on play or socializing or something that does recharge my battery.
Okay. And this, so throughout all of this, understanding your own values, your own personal priorities when you're searching a job, do you think it will help? Because also, if you put it like a priority for yourself, your mental health, while you're going through this whole process, how exactly would it help with how it will influence? Hopefully, it will help during your job search.
Yeah, I think, I think the values piece is very interesting. And I've had a lot of clients even discuss their values in their job interview. And I think, when we've done that work on ourselves, when we understand who we are and what's important to us, we're also able to articulate how we can help the company, the team, the role. Maybe we also see a values alignment between ourselves and the mission of the company. So then we can really articulate, on a much deeper level, what we see as a really good partnership. So I've seen that practically work a lot. And then, in terms of how your mental health helps the job search, I think if we think of the job search and kind of these peak moments, I think, getting into an interview flow is like a peak moment. That's like where we're pushing towards with all of the upfront work, with our brand positioning, CV, LinkedIn, like connections, like we're moving towards getting into an interview flow. And then when we're in an interview flow, we really do that's, I think, critical to manage our mental health and our energy, because in those moments, we really want to show up as the best version of ourselves, meaning like rested, able to articulate ourselves in a way that we feel really good about, able to maybe answer a question that we didn't see coming, which can often happen. So I think the mental health kind of care, it needs to be a continuous journey. It's very hard to just like do these peaks and valleys. And if we don't take care of it, and then all of a sudden we're in a situation where, I don't know, we're in an interview, like I mentioned, I've had people say like, oh, I just wasn't focused, I wasn't present. I think that can happen because we weren't able to give the time to it beforehand, or maybe we didn't know how. So I think it is an ongoing project. Yeah.
Okay. And I have like a question, because I have seen this on Instagram many times where people, and I want to know your opinion.
Yeah.
They make this remark like, once you go you get to the final round of interviews, because we all know there are several.
Yeah.
Don't stop applying for jobs.
Sure.
And it just stuck to it stick to my mind, like, put in so much effort. Now you perhaps, if you're in one process, it means that you're, I don't know, a month and a half here in Germany. It could be a month minimum, depending on everyone's schedule and how fast they are. But would you agree with this statement that you have to continue, even if you don't have even if you have this maybe already email saying we're interested in you?
Right. So the first thing that comes to mind is back to our farming analogy. I think we have to keep planting the seed. So even if we're deep in this interview process, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We still want to keep putting ourselves out there, keep connecting with people. I also personally am the person who like doesn't want to put all the eggs in one basket. So I do want to have, this is our plan A. This is really where we want to go. But if for any reason, and that goes back to the knowing what's in our control and what's out of our control, we still sadly cannot control that final outcome. And so my advice would probably be like, don't feel like you have to be applying for everything that comes up if you're so far along in a process, but keep planting these networking seeds. And if you see other roles where you're like, ooh, that's really interesting, like I'm really curious about that. I have some clients tell me they'll see a role and the cover letter basically writes itself, and that's how they know that this is like really a fit. Those roles I think we keep going for, because there's something there that pulls us. Yeah.
And during this job search, would you advise people to actually break down exactly what are their deal breakers? Because I think often we just say, I'm looking for a job, but what exactly when you know what you're looking, but do you have deal breakers? It could be that it has to be 100% remote,
Right.
because of your own condition. Do
Yeah.
you think we have to do this?
Yes.
Personal?
Yes, I think this is really important, and goes back to this idea that like we know who we are, what we bring to the table, what we want. Like as we come into the market, we also know what our non-negotiables are, which is what I would call what you're describing. One of my favorite client stories is this client who had been interviewing. They actually turned down a few offers because it didn't feel like the right fit, and then they were in an interview and it was like such the right environment that they were able to express their values, express their non-negotiables, like really show up as like the full version of them. And then they got the offer. And I thought this says a lot about when something clicks, it really clicks, because, they didn't feel like, ooh, but I don't want to say that because what if that isn't received well? Or what if they think I'm being too demanding? That they really just showed up as them, and that was the right fit. So yeah, I think, not saying everyone has to do that in every situation, but I think knowing who we are is really an important like foundation, and that does include knowing what doesn't work for us. Some people have industries they don't want to work in, types of companies that are not aligned with their values. Back to that piece, once we have this language about ourselves, we can better see what is and is not going to be a good fit.
Well, I have to thank you, Krista. It's very, I feel at ease. One, talking with you, it's always very calming. It's always very positive, because you go back to the human part of what it means to find a job and to understand. So we often forget this, our own humanity, because we are looking for this career, this opportunity. So we want to thank you for your time. Here you have the QR for Krista. Krista, I don't know if you want to do some final remarks.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I also loved being here, and would love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. And if you have certain things that stood out to you from the conversation and want to have a follow-up, like please message me.
Yes. And I think almost every spot it was taken, but I don't know. But if you want to have, as Krista said, if you want to have a connection with her, just send her this message, intentional human message on LinkedIn. She already said it. She will smell if it's a fake type of message. And as for us, an applitracker, we are still building our digital tool. We will hopefully soon, very soon, launch it. We are just looking for help job seekers with the amount of work that they are doing, and just streamline their whole process, including to manage their amount of applications. So here is the QR code if you still wanna, if you're not in the wait list right now, but if you wanna include yourself in the wait list, we will be more than happy to receive you. And we see each other in September. And the first webinar that we have in September if you are an immigrant in Germany and there is legal questions in your mind, I think this one is very important for you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for coming, and we see you in September. Bye.